What is going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be breaking down this trade right here. It made me around 8% or 8.5% of profit, and let's get straight into the breakdown. Here we're on the 1 day time frame, the daily time frame, and what can we see here, guys? We saw that price created a higher high, a higher low, and another higher high, and now price is retraced into a discounted zone of demand right here. So essentially, on the higher time frame, I was expecting price to potentially start reversing off now, and potentially price might strengthen towards the upside. However, to those who have watched my videos before, they know that I am a lower time frame trader. I'm not a higher time frame trader. However, I do take the higher time frame bias into account. So here we can see that price is coming to our demand zone. I'm going to delete this demand zone, otherwise when I go down to the lower time frames, my entire trade is going to be inside that zone. So let me delete that. Now you guys know prices come into our discounted demand zone. So let's go down to the 4-hour time frame and see what we can find here. Here we can see that price was creating lower lows and lower highs. We can see that this was a really good supply zone right here. And I actually took a trade off of this zone. If you guys want to check that video out, I'll put it up here somewhere. Click on that video and watch that video if you'd like. But today I'm going to be talking about how I took a long position right through here. So here, what can we see, guys? We can see that price was trending downwards, and then it consolidated for a bit. It broke towards the downside, and then we had a nice bullish rally of price. And what did that do? When there was a nice bullish rally of the price, we saw that all of this trendline liquidity here got taken out. Additionally, we could also see that all of these equal highs here got liquidated as well. So that's what made this demand zone right here very valid for me. Let me draw that in right now. So essentially, I was just going to wait for price to come into this zone like this. So essentially, I was going to wait for price to come into this zone, creating lower lows and lower highs. And I was going to wait for a change of character on price here before carrying the momentum towards the upside. That was my initial plan from this demand zone. So when I shared this onto one of the Discord chats I'm on, this is the response that I got from a lot of the guys there. A lot of people were saying, they were saying that this zone was invalid, and they were saying that this zone is valid because simply because it is the most premium zone, and because it's the most premium zone, this is the one that's going to get mitigated, not this zone right here. So let me just break that down for all of you guys. Is this zone valid? Potentially, yes. We never know. Price could potentially come into this zone and then reverse off, yes. However, what we can say for sure is sometimes price mitigates this zone and reverses, and sometimes price will mitigate this zone and it'll reverse on another day. It just depends on what the price wants to do on that particular day. And that's how you can catch those moves. So for me, I wasn't going to take a aggressive entry off of here. I wasn't going to enter off of this zone like this. Reason being, like that person said, they said that price could potentially come into this zone. And if price came into this zone, then I would get my stops taken out. Therefore, I was waiting for a change of character on the lower time frames before taking the trade towards the upside. That was my plan. Does that make sense? So let's see what price actually does. We're waiting for price to come into this zone, and once it does that, we want to look for the move towards the upside, okay? Right here we can see that price had come into our zone, and what did it do? Price basically rallied towards the upside. This is a very valid change of character. So again, I was looking for an entry. The 1 hour looks pretty good. However, I found my entry off of the 2-hour zone. I just thought this order block right here looked a lot better than the other ones. Maybe I chose a different order block, but I chose a similar zone to this one. I can't really remember now. And I set my stop loss right here, and I was aiming for the swing high up here. And let's see what price does. Right there, I actually ended up losing this trade, as you guys can see right here in this screenshot. So I lost that trade. However, does that make my thinking incorrect? Absolutely not. Does that make this zone invalid? Perhaps, but we can't guarantee it for sure because sometimes price just stays in a zone for a while before it makes the right move. So right here we could see that price had basically failed to hold off of this demand zone and we came even deeper into the demand zone. One thing that I've seen from the markets is I don't want my price to, or I don't want the price to come into the zone as deep as this. The best zones are the ones where price just mitigates it and then it just rallies straight off or it drops straight off if it's a supply zone. So that's what I didn't like about this zone right here. Price had come really deep into this zone and I was anticipating price to come into the deeper 1 hour demand zone right here. So let's see what happens with the price. Yeah, I still haven't discounted this level of demand. By discounted, I mean I haven't written off this zone of demand because again, it hasn't been invalidated yet. It's just come into the zone a bit too much, more than I would like on most of my entries. So let's see, let's just keep replaying price and let's see what happens here. Right there, guys, what can we see? We saw that price created a lower low and then it created a lower high and then it created a higher low right here, respecting this zone of demand. And then it created a big higher high. And when it created that higher high, we actually broke this previous high that we were going to take a trade towards. It took it out. It completely took it out with a nice strong 1 hour candle close. So this was a really good sign for me personally. So now when at this time it was 6 o'clock in the morning and I love my sleep. So I was not at the charts at this point and I only trade London session. So I didn't get this entry. And even if this entry presented itself at London session, I decided not to take an entry off of another confirmation here simply because the last time I took a confirmation here, what had happened? Price had completely liquidated me. So I knew that there was a pattern and because of that pattern, the same thing might happen again. However, what I decided was if I can find a demand zone here being respected, I could look for another confirmation within my confirmation. So what do I mean by that? Right here, we can see that on the 2 hour time frame, or I personally went to the 4 hour time frame, we can see that we've got a nice pin hammer candle. So this is the zone that I chose as my 4 hour zone. Okay. And on the 1 hour, we can see that price has now mitigated that zone. Once it has mitigated that zone, I could simply just look for a confirmation entry like this or a confirmation entry like this. Either way, this is what I was going to look for. So let's see what price does. Right there, guys, what can we see? Let me just get these little arrows out of the way. We can see that price was creating lower highs and lower lows right here. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then a higher high and a higher low. So now at this point, I'm thinking perhaps price has now started to shift over towards the upside. Hey guys, just a quick little note. I was editing the video and I realized I used the completely wrong terminology. Every time I said lower high, I actually meant lower low. And every time I said lower low, I actually meant lower high. And same thing for higher highs and higher lows. So I'm sorry for any of the confusion that I've caused. And let's get back into the video. And again, we can see that price had barely mitigated this zone and now was already presenting some strong bullish candle. So at this point I was thinking perhaps price would come into this discounted level of demand and we could take the profits up here somewhere. That's what my initial thinking was. So at this point I hope the TA makes sense, and now we can basically just look for our entries. On entries, I went for the 30-minute time frame. We can see that price was kind of rallying up. However, there was quite a bit of wicks over here, some doji candles, a bit of indecision in the market right here. Then we saw a bit of a down move, still indecision candles, and then we saw a big bullish engulfing candle. So this is where a lot of the imbalance was. This is where a lot of the orders hadn't been filled. So in my mind, I'm thinking potentially price could come into these zones and we could take the move over towards the upside. So basically I marked my demand zone out something like this. This was again a month ago, so I don't completely remember how I marked it out, but it was something like this. And let's see what happens. I kept my stop loss below the previous swing high, and I kept my profits right up here. This gives us a risk to reward ratio of 4.26 to 1. It's pretty solid. I will take that any day of the week, and let's see what price does. Superb. That was it. That was our 4-to-1 risk to reward trade. And I just wanted to add a couple of things as to why I chose this zone right here and why I didn't enter off of any of these red or blue candles right here. Let me explain that on the 5-minute time frame. On the 5-minute time frame, we can see that price was creating higher highs and higher lows. So one would argue, why am I not entering off of this demand zone right here? Why am I not entering off of here? This seems like a pretty safe demand zone to enter off of, right? Look, it might be. However, I personally spotted this as trend line liquidity right here. We can see that the line had been touched quite a few times. So a lot of retail traders at this point are thinking, yes, this is a solid trend line forming on the 5-minute time frame, and I can take the move towards the upside. However, what the market makers know is that there's a lot of stop losses behind these lines right here. So that means if they can hunt those stop losses, they can collect a lot of money before actually moving towards the upside. So this was one piece of liquidity that I saw in the market. And secondly, we can also see that price had early inducement. By early inducement, I mean that price had come into this zone right here, and a lot of people would be buying off of this line right here because they think it's a premature level of demand or support. So if people are going to buy over here, they're going to keep their stop losses behind that zone. And what does the market do? The market takes them out, and then it moves towards the upside. Again, I'm not too sure where exactly my entry was. Maybe it was up here somewhere. I'm not too sure. But here is the proof of entry that I took the trade. And I hope that makes sense to all of you. So this is the trade that I took last month, and it was pretty good. And one more thing I'd like to share is, in hindsight, when I was looking back at this trade, look at where this trade ended up going, guys. It actually ended up taking this major high right here. Let's see what happens. Right there, it actually took that major high. So it's one of those things. I could have gotten this entry, but you know, again, the market is at random. We can see that the market did react off of that zone. However, the market just didn't want to rally towards the upside that day. It just came down, took my stop loss, and then the real demand chain started to form, and we just took an entry on the 5-minute time frame or the 30-minute time frame, whatever. We took it on the lower time frames, and we caught that move eventually. So just a lesson that you guys can learn from this is, just because you lose a confirmation trade off of a zone doesn't mean that that zone is invalid, and doesn't mean that you're thinking incorrectly. It could simply just mean that you are trading on the wrong day, and that's one of those things that you can't control. The market's not always going to give you your perfect entries and exits, guys. Sometimes it's going to take your stop loss, but again, the main thing you have to focus on is just focus on your high time frame analysis, trust yourself and trust your TA, and make sure you have good psychology. And if you can do that, even if you miss an entry like I did right here, you can still end up cashing another entry if that zone it's truly the actual demand zone. So keep your head up, guys. Just keep working hard, and I hope this breakdown helped you all. If it did, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to share it with your friends, please share it. And if you guys want to see more content, make sure to subscribe. And if you guys want, add me on Instagram and TikTok. I'll be posting a whole bunch of reels there. I've already started, and they've started to pop off, so make sure you guys check that out. And if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section below. If you guys want to see anything else, make me know
that you do.
And if you guys want to see any other type of video, make sure to let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.